68 voters who were assigned to 50,739 polling stations across the country. Each polling station served approximately 300 to 600 voters, covering 71,214 villages nationwide. Uganda's constitution, as well as regional and international human rights instruments to which the country is a party, guarantees key democratic rights. These include the right to participate in public affairs, to vote, and to stand for election, freedoms of expression, association, and peaceful assembly, access to information, equality before the law, and protection from discrimination and arbitrary arrest or detention. Uganda is further obligated to conduct regular, free, fair, and transparent elections. The Uganda Human Rights Commission congratulates the Electoral Commission, all candidates, and the people of Uganda on the successful conclusion of the exercise. We also commend the 1,655 election observers drawn from international, regional, and national institutions accredited by the Electoral Commission to observe the 2026 general elections, including the African Union, AU, Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, Intergovernmental Authority for Development, IGAD, East African Community, the European Union, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, China, Korea, South Africa, among others. Preliminary findings. The Uganda Human Rights Commission deployed 121 observers, comprising members of the Commission and staff, to 990 polling stations across 78 of Uganda's 146 districts. Observation was conducted through the Commission's 12 regional offices located in Arua, Kampala, Gulu, Fort Portal, Hoima, Jinja, Kabale, Lira, Masaka, Mbarara, Moroto, and Soroti, as detailed below. Number of polling stations observed by the Commission. Arua, we observed 52 polling stations. In Fort Portal, this region has 6 districts. We observed 63 polling stations. Hoima, this regional office takes charge of 7 districts. We observed 83 polling stations. Jinja Regional Office, which takes charge of 8 districts, we observed 45 polling stations. In Kabale, we observed 29 polling stations. Kampala, we observed 300, this takes charge of 10 districts. We observed 393 polling stations. Lira Regional Office, which takes charge of 5 districts, we observed 56 polling stations. Masaka Regional Office, which takes charge of 6 districts, we observed 51 polling stations. Moroto Regional Office, which takes charge of 6 districts, we observed 44 polling stations. Mbarara Regional Office, which takes charge of 8 districts, we observed 54 polling stations. Gulu Regional Office, which takes charge of 7 districts, we observed 59 polling stations. Soroti Regional Office, which takes care of 6 districts, we observed 59 polling stations. That makes a total of 990 polling stations. It should be noted that the Commission did not monitor parliamentary elections in Kibanda North constituency, in Kiriandongo district, and Ibanda municipality, as the Electoral Commission suspended elections due to mismatches between candidates' names and their respective symbols on the printed ballot papers. Distribution of polling materials. Polling materials were delivered on time at the majority of polling stations observed. However, delays were recorded in Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukono, with some materials arriving as late as 10 a.m. Consequently, voting commenced between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. at several polling stations. Voter turnout. The Electoral Commission reported 21,649,068 registered voters, of whom 11,366,201 cast ballots for presidential and parliamentary candidates, while voter turnout during the 2021 scientific elections stood at 59.35%. Turnout in the 2026 general elections declined to 52.50%, reflecting a 6.85% decrease. Higher turnout was observed in rural areas compared to urban centers, with particularly low participation recorded in Kampala and Wakiso districts. The Uganda Human Rights Commission observed that voters generally arrived as early as 6:30 a.m. and remained calm despite delays in the opening of the polls. Use of BVVK machines. In October 2025, the Electoral Commission unveiled the biometric voter verification kits to enhance transparency and electoral integrity, with each polling station designated at least 2 kits, primary and backup. On polling day, however, widespread technical challenges were reported. The BVVKs functioned effectively at only a limited number of polling stations visited, including those in Chankwanzi, Bulisa, Bunyangabu, Karenga, Kabong, Moroto, Napak, parts of Nakapiripirit, and Rentojo ward in Mbarara district. In addition to the technical challenges, the Commission noted BVVKs were not delivered at some polling stations in Yumbe and Wakiso districts. At about 9:30 a.m., the chairperson of the Electoral Commission directed polling officials to revert to the use of the manual National Voters Register, where BVVKs had failed. The Uganda Human Rights Commission commends the Electoral Commission for enabling citizens to vote despite these challenges, including extending polling time from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. We, however, note that because the official communication, because the official persons with disabilities, expectant mothers, among others. For instance, the Uganda Human Rights Commission observed that elections were conducted in polling stations located on open grounds such as school compounds, churches, football fields, and other open flat grounds that were generally accessible. We, however, noted that in Moroto and Nakapiripirit, some areas were inaccessible, with voters walking long distances from the mountains to the lowlands to vote. We further observed that the vulnerable persons, especially those who needed help, were supported by their personal helpers, while Electoral Commission officials helped or assisted those who did not have personal helpers. Management of the polling station by polling officers. Polling officials generally demonstrated professionalism by explaining voting procedures, identifying and recording the required minimum number of voters, 10 for poll opening and relaying information received from the Electoral Commission. Polling day security. The security situation remained largely calm nationwide. The Uganda Human Rights Commission observed regular police patrols around polling stations that did not interfere with voting. The deployment of multi-agency security personnel was visible and consistent with Article 212 of the Constitution. Most security personnel were unarmed or lightly equipped. However, in a few areas of Kampala, Sembabule, and Mbarara, polling constables were observed carrying firearms. Each polling station was manned by at least 2 polling constables. Careful calibration of security deployments remains essential to safeguard free participation. Closing, counting, and tallying processes. Vote counting and tallying were conducted in accordance with the Electoral Commission guidelines and procedures in the presence of candidates' agents, voters, and observers. Tallying times varied across polling stations. Although most polling stations closed at 5 p.m., counting and declaration of results extended beyond 8 p.m. at some locations. All candidates' agents present received copies of the declaration of results forms. Human rights concerns. Limited internet accessibility. The Uganda Human Rights Commission noted that the Uganda Communications Commission implemented a temporary suspension of public access to the internet on 13th January 2026, 2 days before polling day. According to the UCC, the limitation of internet access was to, quote, mitigate the rapid spread of online misinformation, disinformation, electoral fraud, and related risks, as well as preventing the incitement of violence that could affect public confidence and national security during the electoral period. Quote, this partial shutdown impacted 17 million internet subscribers, according to the UCC figures, in Uganda, thereby limiting the right of access to information and freedom of expression and association. The Commission notes that the limitation of access to mobile money services affected rural communities, which increasingly use mobile money as an alternative to the formal banking system. Violence at polling stations and tally centers. Although polling was generally peaceful, incidents of violence were reported in Rwemiyaga, Bukedea, Mukono, Butambala, Mityana, Kampala, Kayunga, Luwero, and Wakiso. Media reports cited 7 deaths, 3 gunshot injuries, and 25 arrests in Butambala and Kalungu. Invalid votes. According to the Electoral Commission, the valid votes were 11,090,848, and the invalid votes were 273,353. The Uganda Human Rights Commission observers noted that some votes were invalidated due to incorrect marking or not marking at all. We note that the number of invalid votes remains high, with a similarly high number of invalid votes, 393,500, representing 3.66%, recorded in the 2021 general election. Challenges of candidates' agents. The Uganda Human Rights Commission observed that the candidates' agents from various political parties were present at the polling stations, including for the independent candidates. It was, however, noted that while the majority of these polling stations had agents, for all the National Resistance Movement and the National Unity Platform political parties, others like the Democratic Party, Alliance for National Transformation, and Forum for Democratic Change hardly had agents at the polling stations visited. It was also observed that agents of the majority of parliamentary candidates were present at most of the polling stations visited. Recommendations. The Uganda Human Rights Commission makes the following preliminary recommendations. The Electoral Commission should conduct comprehensive training and large-scale testing of all electoral technologies prior to polling. A mandatory percentage of election financing should be allocated to voter education. Candidates' agents should be permitted to verify voters on the manual register where digital verification is unavailable. Conclusion. Despite the challenges observed, Ugandans were able to exercise their right to vote in a generally peaceful and secure environment. The Uganda Human Rights Commission will continue to engage stakeholders and issue further statements as the electoral process progresses. For God and my country.
Welcome questions. Begin with 5. You say your name and then you ask. There's 1 BDS, NGS. Name, media house. 3, 4. Anyone?
Where do I write these questions?
Okay.
Let me write on one of them.
Thank you. In your observation,
Name, media house.
my name is Richard Olwany from NBS. In your observation, you give us a long list of failures that you established in the districts around the country. On a scale of 1 to 100, 0 or 0 to 100, rate the effects of these failures to the free and fair election. Secondly, who slept on job? And then, thirdly, Uganda Human Rights Commission has a value written there of promoting fairness. Why didn't you intervene immediately?
Another one?
My name is
Hold on, I'm still writing. There's so many questions NBS asked. Okay, your name?
Kareebire. I work with the military. I want to understand how many human rights violations do you cases do you register in the same round? Then also, why are you doing
Hold on. Yes, then?
basically why are we continuing to have low voter turnout? Is heavy deployment part of it? the commission in carrying out its mandate, and we want to understand maybe how it affects you as a commission. Thank you.
Those are from two major houses.
My name is Preston. I work with National Library. It means, according to your provision as a commission, the defendants get a free and fair election. That's in the
This question is similar to, I think, the one asked by your colleague. On a scale of 0 to 100? I don't. Okay.
just need to know, according to your observation, the defendants get a free and fair election.
Another one? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Ronald Seka. I work with the Ologino newspaper. Mine is, you made many recommendations to various agencies. How are you going to make sure that these recommendations, like the ones you said about EC, that they are implemented, other than the policy that the Uganda Human Rights Commission just talks without implementing these recommendations? How are you going to make sure that they are implemented other than the usual talks? Then the second one is some people have equated this election, the one of the recently concluded one in Tanzania, where they voted in the so-called darkness, where the internet was shut down. They are equating it to that Tanzanian election. What do you have to say about that? Thank you.
That's for now.
I'm Gabriel Okidi from KFM. My question is in line with recommendations that you gave. You talk about different recommendations, but I am also interested in finding out the recommendation that you can put out in line with challenges that people face with the internet shutdown and the mobile money services. What recommendation do you put forward?
I think we can answer those for now, then we'll take another round.
Yes. Richard from NBS, you asked 3 questions. Effects of failure. What were the effects of these failures on the fairness of the elections? There were indeed some failures, as we mentioned in our report, which were largely technical. Some failures can be fundamental, others may not. Failures may be procedural, like when it comes to time for commencement of the voting, having communicated that the voting will start at 7 and it starts at 9. That can be an issue to do with the timeliness of the starting of the process, which can be cured by extension of time within which to vote. The failures we talked about to do with the kits were technical failures, and such procedural or technical failures do not go to the fundamental issue of the fairness or freeness of an election. What is very important is that every registered voter who turned up to vote, voted. No one was disenfranchised, at least not deliberately. Had we had situations where voters turned up to vote and were denied their fundamental right to cast their votes. I would have said this affected the election. I personally also voted in addition to monitoring the election. I arrived at my polling station at 7:20 a.m. But these factors, technical issues we mentioned, affected that polling station as well. And I cast my vote around 10 a.m. I was not denied my chance to vote for the 3 candidates of my choice. So, briefly, I do not think that these hiccups affected the fairness of the elections. Who slept on the job? This is, with due respect, is not a very useful question. I think what we want to see is improvement. You can prepare for an event, big or small, but you may not foresee every issue that may confront you on a given day. So I do not find it helpful to sit here and just, this one slept on the job. Maybe whoever manufactured or was contracted to produce the kits failed on the job, or whoever was in charge of testing. We saw them being tested, or the chair of the EC slept on. I don't think that's a useful question, with due respect. Why didn't you intervene immediately? Intervene in what? We were observing the election. By the way, we were also voting. Our exercise, first of all, as citizens of Uganda, who are registered voters, we had a duty to vote, but also to monitor and observe the election. I don't know what kind of instant intervention you expected from us, because again we were mindful of not disrupting the exercise. Whatever recommendations or observations we made, we documented them, waiting for the right moment to communicate them to the concerned, that is the Electoral Commission. I don't think we were expected to give orders, instructions to polling officials as the exercise was going on. What was vital was to ensure whoever turned up voted. We would have been disruptive had we to do what perhaps you have in mind. Karim Moyobo, Daily Monitor. How many human rights violations did you register during this time? Observance of human rights and freedoms is a continuous process. It is the basic mandate of this commission. There is not a single day or occasion when we do not perform that duty. If there are specific human rights violations which were registered, my staff across the country will communicate them to us for further processing, as we always do, with or without elections. Karim, you also asked, why do we continue to have low voter turnout? Could heavy deployment of security be a factor? I think 50% plus voter turnout is not really low. It's average. We should do better, I think. But this particular election, you journalists, I'm sure you also participated in this voting. You went to polling stations, you saw what happened. The polling station where I voted from, somewhere in Nakawa East, I arrived at the polling station at 7:20 a.m. The voters I found there were so many. Actually, at first, my conclusion was this time round, the voter turnout will be very high. But I saw a few, I think I saw a young lady. She's fairly young, but she looked to be in ill health. And she sat down. I think there were not enough preparation for seats for particular categories of people. Perhaps it was not anticipated that the kits may fail, so there was no provision for chairs. I saw this young woman sitting in the grass, and it was early morning. There was still a bit of dew, and I saw somebody offer her a bottle of water, and a few others. I could hear people grumbling. A few, I think 3 of them walked away. They were unable to wait any longer. And I thought I had a civic duty to, luckily I think in Akawa East, many people see me but they don't know who I am, so that is very comfortable for me. So I tried to persuade them to wait a bit longer. But I think 3 of them went away. I'm not sure that they returned. If this was the trend countrywide, possibly it could have affected this voter turnout. I cannot attribute this to deployment of security. On the contrary, in our observation, the deployment of security inspired confidence among the people. We were assured of security. We were assured of safety. By the way, where I voted from, the policemen and women I saw there, I saw them helping these voters. We had 3 stations within one area, and we were voting according to the names, according to the alphabetical order of our names. And I saw policemen, actually I saw voters walking to the policemen to show them their national identity cards. This is my identity card. Afandi. Sometimes they call them Afandi. Please show me where to vote from. And they would show them. You can't walk to somebody to get help when you are intimidated by that person. I didn't see them go to fellow voters. They were walking to policemen and women. Were they intimidated? No. In fact, the person I saw give this sick lady a bottle of water was a policeman. So, it's not true that heavy deployment of security created intimidation among the voters. The exact opposite, in our observation, is true. Internet shutdown, how did it affect the Uganda Human Rights Commission? Where we are seated today, ladies and gentlemen, is our situation room. This is where our team at head office sat to coordinate the activities of our 121 election observers. And we were getting reports from them constantly. So let me whisper this to you. Don't talk about it when you go out there. I negotiated an exemption for the internet shutdown for this situation room. So we were not affected by the internet shutdown. Don't go and write about it. Don't talk about it. But that is what happened. So we were not affected. Crossy from National Media Group. Did Ugandans get a free and fair election? Again, I said that basically what is an election? I have my, some people had voter slips. For me, I had just my national identity card. There was a voters register. I saw my name there. Before the 3 ballot papers were issued to me, the polling officer ticked my name to ensure that I don't return to vote again. There were 3 boxes within which there was a basin, water basin, within which I would place my ballot paper and tick the candidate of my choice. And there were 3 boxes where I was dropping each ballot paper, and I ticked those names without anybody hovering over my shoulder to know who I had voted for. And thereafter, somebody pasted my finger with, I think, purple indelible ink, and I walked away. So, to me, that sums up the fairness of an election. Whatever other side events which did not prevent people from freely choosing their candidates, to me that cannot affect the fairness of an election. So to answer your question, yes, Ugandans got a free and fair election. Ronald Kiseka, how will you ensure your recommendations are implemented? Usually recommendations are recommendations. They are not orders. However, the Uganda Human Rights Commission is a constitutional body. When we make recommendations, they are not idle. And I believe our recommendations will be implemented. Here they are. I don't see any of them which should not be implemented. The Electoral Commission should conduct comprehensive training and large-scale testing of all electoral technologies prior to the polling. This is not an idle recommendation. It's informed by what happened on the voting day. A mandatory percentage of election financing should be allocated to voter education. We saw the spoiled or invalid ballot papers, and it's in the interest of everyone that we shouldn't have any spoiled ballot paper. We think this boiled down to insufficient voter education. Candidates should be permitted to verify voters on the manual register. By the way, not only candidates, but we the voters, we verified our names on them. So I don't see anything impossible or hard to comply with here. So your question that how will you ensure this? Believe me, these recommendations will be implemented. Again, Ronald Kiseka, you said some people are equating this election to the one in Tanzania. For us, we are here to talk about the election in Uganda. I think it would even be disrespectful to our neighbors for me to sit here and I start commenting on their processes. We are here to talk about the elections in Uganda, full stop. Finally, KFM, you asked what recommendation do you make on internet shutdown? Before the shutdown, by the way, we had been assured by the UCC that that internet would not be shut down. But eventually, we were also we saw the communication from Honorable Nyombi Tembo, the head of the UCC, that the internet, operation of the internet would be suspended. And I tried to reach him to remind him of his assurance. Prior to this, I did not get beyond what was communicated, that it was in the public interest to prevent what I read out to you. Today I quoted him verbatim. I quoted the UCC verbatim as to why they found it necessary to suspend The internet, they said it was to mitigate the rapid spread of online misinformation, disinformation, electoral fraud, and related risks, and to prevent incitement to violence that could affect public confidence and national security during this period. So, what I can recommend, thankfully, I think we are now back on fully, is that this should be informed by proportionality, legitimacy, and the public good. You know, sometimes in whatever individual or personal freedoms and rights we enjoy, sometimes the public interest or public good, public security comes in, and it may override enjoyment of individual rights and freedoms. Thank you. On a scale of 1 to 10, what marks do you give me for answering your question?
More? Yes. 2? Anyone else? You can answer those. 3? Anyone else? Yes? So those are the rest you need.
So,
From
what? Cruise FM. Okay. Cruise. Okay. Sounds Spanish. I hope your question is not in Spanish. Oh, cruise. Okay. Okay, cruise.
In your observation, Madam Chair, actually on the spoiled and invalid votes, what do you think was the cause of this? Because in your recommendation, you said there is money for voter education. But we saw on many occasions when the Electoral Commission is studying, actually is doing more basics in voter education. So who needs to be more educated? The voters or the Electoral Commission officials? Yes. Because it's on record, there are some businesses on certain polling stations where we observe the Electoral Commission officials invalidating valid votes according to the commission. So who needs more voter education? The voters or the another one?
Madam Chair, I'm Mulanda Jediona from Aripota News and Online News. Now, there is a habit that is continuously happening of goons invading polling stations where the tallying is happening, or where the announcements are being made. They take over. Even the person in charge of the election ends up messing up all things. It happened in youth elections, especially elections of youth. It so happened in the by-election of Awembo, of Nabukola Nenali. It even happened recently in Kororo. The turning officer was invaded. Put on pressure. SFC was also involved. What is your take on that? Continuous habit.
Okay. Yes, Madam Chair, my name is Zuku from BBC. I would like to find out from the Commission if by now you are aware or informed of the status of Group President Chakulani. Last evening there was what he was circulating. He was claiming his rights were being violated. Could the Commission be aware of how he is living? Yes.
Last comment. My name is Wesley Bradley from the New What is next for the people at networks? They do run online businesses. Internet shutdown, this is the second time. They do get losses, and so they earn a living. What's your take? what should you recommend? Should the government compensate lost businesses? Second, and from 2016, this year was put under house arrest. 2021, Bw'Abantu was also put under house arrest.
Sorry, start that question afresh. You said 2021?
2016, immediate after elections, Dr. Kizaris was put under house arrest. 2021.
At what point was he put under house arrest?
You know that.
Oh, it is you asking me the question. Okay, continue.
He was put under house arrest immediate after elections. 2021, the same to chairman, the same thing this time has happened. Why should we do it now? Is that the human rights that people who contest against the president deserve? Thank you.
Cruise FM on the cause of spoiled votes. Your question was, who needs the voter education? Is it the voters or the EC officials? My thinking is it's the voters who needed voter education. After casting my vote, I went away to do observation and monitoring. So it's the voters, for instance, who, like when somebody's making a tick, who makes it so long that it cuts through the name of another candidate. It's not the EC officials who did this. It's not the EC officials, for example, who left some ballot papers unmarked. And I think I want to show some respect to the Electoral Commission on this. To answer your question direct, it's the voters who need voter education. Mulangira, you talked about, this is a very serious situation. I think you rightly called them goons, invading polling stations during tallying. Like it happened in Kololo, I was watching. And sometimes goons attacking EC officials as they are carrying ballot voter equipment. So I think this is criminal. This is not right. It has to be confronted. This is intimidating to the election officials. And I think this incident you cited in Kololo largely contributed to the delay in declaration of the results. The candidates who emerged victorious should have been declared much earlier than was done, I think because of this insecurity. But I should commend the EC officials who manned the Kololo Tale Center for standing firm, for resisting bullying and intimidation, and declaring the results as they were. So this is wrong. This is criminality. And I think all those concerned, if by now they have not been arrested, they have to be arrested and prosecuted accordingly, so that these incidents of impunity, criminality are not repeated anywhere. UBC, you asked about the status of the National Unity Platform President. Maybe I should inform you and the country that I have sent a team from our office to go and have an interaction with His Excellency Bobby Wine, as he fondly used to call himself. We hope they will have access to him. We hope he too will agree to speak to them. So for now, I'm waiting. We are in touch with my team. I'm waiting for their report. From the New Vision, you were concerned about the business community who transact business with use of internet, who suffered losses, whether they should be compensated. Whenever there is an interruption of this nature, some inconveniences have to be suffered by both the vendors and the buyers. Earlier I said that the UCC had assured us that there would be no internet disruption. They went ahead and did that. But honestly, I think most reasonable Ugandans did not believe that there would be no internet disruption, despite the assurances made by the UCC. Remember, we convened a meeting, I think at Sheraton, where the UCC were represented. We expressly asked them, we want an assurance that there will be no internet shutdown. And they said so. But I think we reasonably expected that possibly this may happen. And I think most reasonable people within the business community expected that perhaps there would be this internet suspension. The losses are regrettable, and if the suspension of internet was informed by the public good, again, let the public good prevail. But we cannot, individual business people who suffered and need compensation, they can file claims. Yeah, they can file suits in the commercial divisions of the courts and seek compensation accordingly. So we cannot, so we can encourage them to do that, if they so wish, to seek compensation for the losses they suffered during this period. From New Vision, again, I don't know why you decided to ask very tough questions this morning. You said in 2016, Dr. Besigye was put under house arrest after elections in 2021 and 2026 today. His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi is under house arrest. So what was your question?
Why should it be that case? Should it be a crime to contest against the president? Because after having been under what's the separate thing?
It should not be a crime. Actually, it's not a crime for anybody to vie for any political office. If it is true that Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi is under house arrest, we need to know why, and it's the reason I have sent my team to talk to him. We listened to the spokesperson of the police, who said that they have been deploying wherever they see, wherever there is a security interest. So he said this is a deployment, and that even before the elections, they have been deploying at those specific areas where they feel there is extra need to enhance security. We saw that every presidential candidate was given security. The idea is that whoever is cleared to contest for the presidency ceases to be an ordinary individual. They must have extra security. More so when you are a top contender for the presidency, like Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi. But let me wait for the report from my team before I can elaborate on that. BBS Terefina, you asked your question in Luganda. If I can translate it to English, this is what you asked. Can you assure us that the results declared by the chair of the Electoral Commission were authentic? Why should I think otherwise? My answer is yes, I can give that assurance. You know, documents don't lie. The Electoral Commission chair had, I think, has an office in every district in Uganda. He deployed polling officials at each and every polling center in Uganda. Each candidate, let me say, each serious candidate had agents. I'm aware that there are candidates who didn't deploy agents at the polling centers. Before any ballot paper was counted, it was shown to the agents, the candidates' agents, and whoever was present. And everyone could see in whose favor.
Ona umblutsi 15 nomsho ezamiteyine katete mbarasite ubure kutunga meyawe haza kandi twiniye na blutsi nunje zindi omyanya mirunji amhanda yona erukutaha no kushoro muri mbarasi Bushenyi Road omchiyeje $5,000,000 na Kashaka $10,000,000 Masaka Road Robiyenje ya Hashpira $2,300,000 na Kanyaryer $8,000,000 Kabare Road omuricece $5,000,000 hamwe na Karamo mukategura $8,000,000 Ibanda Road Ishanyu miliyoni 15 na Ibanda Town miliyoni 25 no basa kushashura hitchweka echa pasenti ya 30 rere zirasigare oshashura hagati ya meza 3 nyabura we ija office zaitu mbarra Chosiga House Mackenzie Street omanye birukuchira esimu not mushanju ataruna mkaga 85 Amity Realtors Limited ntukwendeze chiro chikuru chirunji no mwaka msiyo gwihorere
Adura Modo Pre and Primary School neishomero rukushanga mu makenke omururembo rwambarara kandi abinuge gisego mutano aharurengo rwa kindergarten otiriho na primary kuruga P1 okwikar P7 eishomero gine day na boarding aho abeji bamwe bari kushomana bataha kandi abandi bakarara hishomero ogoteberwe ngunu batunga n'intambara okubihoma kagabo mu kasheshe no kubagarrayo mu mwabazyo Adura Modo Pre and Primary School batire sara akureba ngo babangura umwana wawe omichwe n'emitwaraze ebyo bwegese burungi kureba ngo bamuha umusinge murungi kandi binabashomese merya otiriho n'embuge yeshanzere aho bana barukuzanira bakikikana sobwongo school fees ninge bishare byishomero nubasira buryomwe uryo muzire ningo mukuza tunga admission y'umwana wawe okurga yishomero muri makenke okurugurwo kubanza okusirwa mukaga shayibiriza kasheshe okwisya shayi kumene mwezo mu mwabazyo sente za registration n'emitware shationka umusende shiringe ya Uganda nyabara witwara umwana wawe Aduramo Modo Pre and Primary School otiza kwefuza
Muchara
wanji mwami
akahoho kararugokwe kukaransonasona ngunyishe na bene iwe
hati turakozesa sabundi za wandazi
it is okay ndebire wanyirira n'abana bataceyagura kambanjurire esabundi za wandazi zirime birungo byo muhendo okuhumuraje no kuhwero kumaraho burwire bwo mubiri okananuka okanyirira aba wandazi beine wandazi medicated soap nerwaniso bukoko aha mubiri beine wandazi herbal soap ebyo kweyaguzo rugusyo wacha wewe beine wandazi baby soap ejineri ndaje mibiri y'abana ejikwata mememe aba wandazi beine wandazi black soap okuchencho burofko mu mibiri okasigarura bobera aba hoteli na guest houses mutwarira abajenyi banyu wandazi guest soap eina kahoho karungi esabuni za wandazi ziryo mu maduka gono mwihanga omu retail na wholesale zikakakasibwa na UNBS abo byo mutindo abariko no mbwinji tere simu noti 3 gura hati
Wonders, always wonderful.
In the neighborhood, near stagnant water and mosquito breeding sites, malaria lurks, always waiting to strike. But fear not, for here comes Mr. Vaxa, the ultimate protector against malaria. For years, malaria has been one of the biggest threats to children under 5, making them weak and even putting their lives at risk. But now, the government is introducing a new solution, the malaria vaccine. The malaria vaccine is now in the routine immunization schedule. The malaria vaccine is administered in 4 doses. At 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and 18 months. This vaccine will provide extra protection against severe malaria. And don't forget, routine immunization protects children from many deadly diseases. Every vaccine matters. Visit the nearest health facility for routine immunization services today. Mr. Vaxa, the malaria vaccine is free, safe, and ready to protect our children. Will you join the fight and complete all 4 doses? For more information, call the Ministry of Health on 0800 100 066. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
amagara g'ensi ariho embeera erikutuhindura tukaba eki ekituri, embeera egi erikuhindura amazoba, engyendo narishi ebitebyo bitu nambwenu mu mbeera egyo nituba nituronda ekintu eky'omutaana aha bindi na munonga ekintu ekirikubaasa kureetaho eky'okutangaza omu magara gitu na niiwe gabanaho burungi bwa Wonders Family Jelly izooba ryawe ribe ry'omutaano gakozirwe omu birungo ebirikuheeza omubiri gukagaruka busya gukagira amaani weena ukasigara n'okuhurira gye. Wonders Family Jelly nigo majuta agine kuguma aha rubaju n'eka yawe.
Wonders, always wonderful.
Obutaba waggulu naye ndowooza nga tetunnayogera nnyo ku muwendo guno. Ensi endala zo voter turnout yo ebeera etya? Osanga wano tewabadde wabi nnyo. Okutwaliza awamu ebyavudde mu kulonda byebyo bannayuganda bye baasazeewo. Naye kankozesa omukisa guno nkubire abalonzi bonna omulanga mu Uganda nti okulonda kukyaliyo. Okulonda okwa local councils. Ate local councils government mweyisa services eri abantu. So tusitukiremu neera wiiki ejja tugende tulonde abakulembeze baffe ba meya, ba ssentebe ba disitulikiti ne ba kansala. Katusuubire nti ku luno omuwendo gw'abalonzi gujja kuba wagguluko. Mu bibuuzo ebyambuuziddwa ebimu nti oyogera ki ku mbeera ya akulira oludda oluvuganya ow'ekitiibwa Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Nsindiseeyo ttiimu yange mu maka g'ow'ekitiibwa Robert Kyagulanyi batuuleko okwo naye tuwulire kiki kyatugamba. Twawuliriza statement eyavudde mu poliisi nga bagamba nti mulimu gwabwe okudeployinga obukuumi buli we balaba nti kyetaagisa. So bye byensobola okwogerako ko mu Luganda.
Thank you very much. Your time is yours. Thank you. We have some questions answered.
When it happens, you hear it first on 104.5. Banyachigezi FM.
A very good afternoon. You're tuned to 104.5 Banyachigezi FM. This is the news. I'm Flavia Nansuboga. First, the headlines. Uganda's ruling National Resistance Movement, NRM party, had by last evening received at least 97 petitions challenging the